This dungeon is pretty tough for a 50 stamina descend because it utilizes just about every trick in the book. We're looking at high armor, bind, poison, jammers, skill bind, and most importantly, a boss that has a whopping 8 million health with perseverance. The first thing you're going to need is a leader that can put down millions of damage when you need it. Awoken Ra is the obvious choice if you do have him, and Awoken Bastet is a pretty good option too. I would think that Light Kali could also tackle this dungeon, but I actually don't have a Light Kali, so I can't speak to that from experience. The next thing I highly recommend is bringing Echidna. There's actually no floor in this dungeon that has permanent status immunity, so she can get you out of a lot of trouble on any of the floors. The last thing I'll say is that you may want to bring Bind Recovery and Skill Bind Resist, but these two are more of a luxury. They're not absolutely necessary, but they can make the dungeon a lot easier. The first floor is more or less a warm-up stage before you face the 3 Roman gods that follow. It's pretty funny because Zeus, Hera, and Hades are actually gods from the Greek pantheon, but for some reason they have the Roman counterparts of their children for defending them instead. That tangent aside, the only thing I would say for this floor is just take them down one at a time in order of turn priority and make the most of this floor to charge your skills. Minerva is definitely the easiest boss in this dungeon, assuming you have a reasonable amount of recovery. For her first 5 turns, she uses just one attack that hits for about 9,000 damage and converts her middle row to fire orbs. After these 5 attacks, she uses a turn to buff herself, so you really have a total of 6 turns to burn through her 1 million health. You just have to average 170,000 damage per turn or 340,000 if you have the attribute disadvantage, but even that's pretty manageable. Neptune is the high armor god in this dungeon, which is pretty typical of the role that he plays in other dungeons. The catch in this case though is that he has 523,000 health, so you can't use raw or poison to bypass him. You really have to break his 280,000 armor. His first attack deals about 3,000 damage and creates a line of hearts and a line of poison orbs. Every attack after that does the same thing, but his damage increases by about 3,000 damage each time. The exception is his 5th attack, which does about 24,000 damage and creates 2 lines of only poison orbs, no hearts. The nice thing is that his status immunity only lasts for 4 turns, so what I usually do is just heal through his first 4 attacks and then use Echidna if he's still alive. If you do end up using Echidna though, make sure you use up all 4 turns because you will be needing her again on the last floor. Ceres is definitely the hardest of the 3 Romans. She's got a respectable 1.5 million health and does a preemptive skill bind for 5 turns. She's also got a couple of bind attacks and her regular attack can hit for up to 16,000 damage, which is pretty scary. The skill that makes her stand out though is that she heals herself to full health whenever she falls below half health, which means you have to land the killing blow when she's above 50%. She also uses a 30,000 damage nuke every 6 turns, so you effectively only have 6 turns to kill her. If you have a predominantly fire team, this floor isn't too bad, but otherwise you may have to use an active to spike her down with one shot. Hades has 4.4 million health and you've got 5 turns to burn through it, which means you have to average roughly 900,000 damage every turn. That's really all there is to say about this floor. You can think of it as a damage check for the boss because you're definitely going to need a lot more than that to take down Zeus and Hera. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, Zeus and Hera have an astounding 8 million health. They preemptively put up status immunity for 2 turns and a 6 combo barrier, which means that any attacks from the 6 combos will heal them. They have 50% perseverance, which means that they cannot be killed when they're above half health. In terms of damage, they actually don't hit too much. When they're above 40%, they pick from a set of 6 combination moves. The only one that you really need to worry about is when Hera uses Ultra Gravity, which cuts your health by 99%. The most comfortable approach for me is try to survive the first 2 turns and then use Echidna to buy me 4 turns to kill them. With these 4 turns, I try to deal 2 attacks of roughly 4 million damage each. I spend 1 turn to clear excess orbs if I need to, and attack on my second turn. Rinse and repeat.